right. So, welcome to our week 6 recording. That means our week 6 Zoom. That means we only have your eyes are smiling, Takia. We only have one more. Jasmine's throwing sign language over there. Your eyes are smiling.
Ooh, we almost there, y'all. Oh my God,
Yes.
I'm so happy.
And Denisha, she just spelled it out. We almost there. And guess what? I feel, yep. So we'll have a week to enjoy Thanksgiving and be thankful that we are in week 6. And you'll have all of next week to, just kind of enjoy yourself and rest and relax. And then you'll have week 7, which is the week following. And that's when you'll work on, if you haven't started already, you'll work on your project. Um, and we'll talk some about that during our next recording. Okay, so what I would encourage you to do is go ahead and look at week 7, though it's been in the announcements here and there since first couple of weeks. Yeah, go ahead and look at week 7 because in essence, what you're going to be doing is you'll be applying what you've done um, or what you've learned in this class. And it's not going to be on art or math or um, science. It's on history. It's a history, kind of a history lesson. So you want to make sure you go ahead and look at it. All right. Okay, so let's talk about what you've been learning this week. What's the core of our discussion or your learning this week? What are we talking about?
The what I did just did that the data analysis.
Okay.
Yeah, the key components of item analysis.
Okay. Yep. All right. And so, what has your lighthouse adventure this week shown you? What was it like? What did you learn? What was the heart of your discussion?
I have not finished yet, but from the 1.5 that I did, the main thing I guess I could say that stuck out with me was making sure um having the right tools to understand if what you are assessing your students on is correct. And one thing that stuck out was the formula that they did. It was the formula to see the percentage of how your students are passing or if it's good or not.
Difficulty or discrimination indices. Okay. All right.
And we touch back a little bit on is it reliability and valid am I saying it right? Validity.
Okay. So we got reliable and valid.
Hmm.
You add a T on there. Reliability,
Hmm.
validity.
Validity.
There you go. Valid, validity,
Hmm.
reliable, reliability.
Hmm.
Yes,
And we
ma'am.
also we also got to know a little bit more identifying key elements in creating an intervention plan.
Okay. All right. Have you worked any with interventions?
Personally,
Mhm.
a little bit when I did long-term sub for English, but I have just a little bit of knowledge on it. So I do like that this lesson, we're getting a lot more knowledge about it
Yes. Yes.
and what things to use,
Hmm.
tools.
Sometimes the words are can be the clinical aspect of it seems a little threatening, but when you just like in a classroom, I always say start with the base. What is an intervention? If you intervene to help someone learn something, what does that look like? If I know that you are writing your alphabet, your A, your cursive A incorrectly, my intervention is going, how do I intervene to stop you where you are to help you get correct form, proper form to start practicing the correct form and applying that to your future um, use or your future implementation of actually writing that A correctly. So it's going back to what does the word mean? And then you apply it to the technical term or the jargon or the yeah, intervention plan. Um, so yeah, well, one thing that I discovered about teaching, there were things that I did and had gotten just created what I felt was a plan of what worked well. And I didn't know what the proper name of it was. For instance, um, your shoulder partner or um, some of the fancy a rotation station. I had already created some things that, or the reading, the speaking, listening, um, reading and writing every day. That's something that I did before there was Common Core because I knew that it was important. If you can read something, write about it, talk about it, and present it. hmm Yeah, that's king, queen, that's the goal. Um, so I think more than anything, and that's where pedagogy is being created. If you have not heard of the word, I'm going to go into our chat and I'm going to type it pedagogy. All right. So pedagogy is in essence how you think about instruction and how you use best practice to deliver instruction, how you think about the best way to teach, what you know about how students learn, what you know about the best way to assess, and when is the best time to do that. So, new teachers are building pedagogy. Um, and then throughout your practice, you're solidifying pedagogy. Okay. Andragogy is adult learning, pedagogy is um, PED, pediatrics learning for younger learners. But if you think about andragogy, which is how we teach adults, we need some of the elements of andragogy in the pedagogy, you know? So I digress, but that's an important word. And many people either don't know it pedagogically correct, they don't know how to pronounce it, they don't know what it is. So that's an important word. If somebody throws it at you, tell them your pedagogy. You're building pedagogy on a daily basis. Just say it for me.
Pedagogy.
There you go. You already sound smart.
Pedagogy.
There you go. There you go. You got to keep this light. That's the only way yeah, you got to make it fun. Okay, so the indices, how many of you the um, discrimination and the difficulty indices kind of threw you for a loop? We don't talk about that a whole bunch. Yeah. So sometimes that can be kind of, but you see where it's helpful in determining is as far as item analysis, is this too difficult? I never heard of discrimination index and difficulty index. So until I heard of it, I had not. I just kind of, okay. The only way I know that this is difficult enough is, and there is a way to know. We talked about it earlier this in this course. Let me let you guess. What's one way to know if an item is difficult enough?
By looking at the DOK.
There you go. By looking at the DOK, by looking at the objective, and whatever the objective is, looking at Bloom's, if you have introduced an objective and you're getting ready to assess students on that objective, then you don't want to be way low beneath it. You don't want to be at remember or recall. If you assess or if you taught at application, then you want to be at least at application in your assessing. Okay, so that's one way to determine if um, the rigor is there. So there are a number of ways for you to holistically make sure that your instruction is rigorous, make sure it's relevant, make sure that it's valid, and ensure that it's reliable. Okay, we know that it's valid when what? How do we know an assessment is valid or an item is valid?
It involves how well a test measures what it is supposed to,
Okay.
like
So
accuracy, the accuracy of it.
is it assessing what it's supposed to assess? Right. Is it measuring what it's supposed to measure? All right. If we taught um, subject verb agreement, then we don't need to be assessing them on vocabulary. Now, that's a basic, but that you don't need to stop there. You need to make sure that you're assessing them on what you taught them on. How do we know it's reliable? How do we know an assessment is reliable or questions are reliable?
It's consistency.
Okay. So that's a good holistic word. Anybody else? An assessment is reliable if,
I was trying to think of what you said. An assessment is reliable if it can be like used across context. I don't know if that was the correct way to put it, but
Yeah, it is like with any group of people. Like, yeah, so it can be assessed. Different groups can be assessed by, and if they get it, yeah, it's good.
okay.
That's how I can explain it to just understand.
Okay. All right. So if the results that you receive when you're assessing one group or different groups, if they're comparable, then you know that the assessment is reliable. There's this consistency performance across at different times or assessment during different periods. Um, so yes, that very good. Very good. Very good. All right, so let's look just at some of the topics for, and I'll try and pull out I'm going to download this mind map. Here we go. Now the mind map is big this week. Um, let me see if it's going to allow me to maneuver it any. I don't think it's going to, let's see here. It's not allowing me to move it around any because it's so big. Mm-mm-mm-mm. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go to the actual page that it's on and do it that way. So I'm going to share my screen. Technology is nice, but it just is what it is sometimes, and you have to figure out how to work it best when you're working it at that particular time. Let's see. How many of you have played around with your LMS notebook?
The
Have,
first week I tried, using it for to note take and everything. I was like, you know what, it's stressing me out already, so I ain't go back.
all right, so what I want you to do, I want you to go back and try it when you're not as stressed, okay? Because what I've done, um, and it really takes looking at the Dr. Upchurch shared it. I think I went over it some, um, going into YouTube and do a tutorial, just a quick overview of it. All right, so let's see here. We've got components of assessment and intervention. So we've got assessment item quality metrics. So some of the terms that you've heard over the last several weeks, you're still hearing those. Item clarity, relevance, bias, item bias, and item indices. Um, so when we talk about clarity, basically straightforward, unambiguous. Um, Sometimes when we're not clear in the questions that we ask or the way we've worded the question, it causes confusion. Some students, say for instance, how your high performing students are going to dig a little bit deeper and think. Um, and then your low performing students may take something at face value. So if you've got different sets of students doing different things and one group is not getting it, then there's an issue with clarity there. Clear questions measure true intent in the assessment. So you can't get around item clarity. Item relevance, again, making sure that questions connect to the learning objective. Um, if we're talking about the moon and the stars, then we shouldn't be talking about earthworms. We shouldn't, earthworm should not be the focus. So that just the relevance, ensuring the assessment measures intended content, that goes back to validity. Okay. And then irrelevant questions detract from the evaluation goal. Um, all right. And then item bias. This is where we went into talking about if culture, so if we live in the desert and the majority of the test is on snow. How in the world would a student, be able to perform well? Um, on, say, for instance, the state test, there are several items on mountains and snow and yeah. So you want to make sure that, as far as gender, culture, there's is fair information in there. Does it accurately measure knowledge and abilities and importance of fairness and equity? James 2 and 1. Will somebody pull up that for me? Somebody, if you don't mind, pull up. And I think Indonesia looks like she's looking it up. She's going to read James 2, verse 1 for us.
James 2, verse 1 says that my brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ must not show favoritism. So this verse emphasizes the importance of treating all believers equally without the discrimination or partiality.
Partiality.
Okay.
Yeah, being partial. Now, if we're honest, being teachers and having students, there are those who are more lovable. There are those who are sometimes more teachable. But then at the same time, there are those who um, really are smart kids, but they just they didn't have breakfast that morning, or they had to take care of they had to comb all the girls' hair that morning, you know? So you just never know what a child, or that student is a mother. I was in a situation where this one young lady, just it was difficult for her to she didn't really want to do what I told her to do. And yeah, I just sensed that there was friction there, but I did not know until I knew that she's a mom. So she's basically a grown up. And in the ninth grade or 10th grade or whatever grade it was, um, it may have even, yeah, I think it was maybe ninth or 10th grade. So it's so important to know your students. National Board's um, five core propositions. Knowledge of students is the first one. You can't replace knowing who you're teaching. The word says we need to know whom we dwell among, who dwells amongst, you know, who we dwell among. Um, So, in order to teach students, you have to know them. You have to know what's going on with them. You have to know something about their family, something about their home life, something, things that they like, things that they don't like, things they're interested in, and that sometimes will get you buy-in. Once I figured out that she was a mom, do you think I talked to her or I treated her like I did the others? I didn't. I did expect her to do what I asked her to do because students also have to learn how to deal with authority and instruction and following directions, regardless of who they come from. But I always paid attention to my tone. I paid attention to what I asked her to do. Um, I may have allowed her to lead in some way, or so it does matter. It really does matter. So difficulty index. Um, did you watch the video in Canvas? All right, so I'm going to play it for you. But what this does, and it gives me a great opportunity to make sure that you are in the Canvas course, and I'm going in right now. Make sure that for each week do you see the Canvas course? Okay. Make sure that you're looking at what's in it. So
Yes, ma'am.
this week, or excuse me, last week, we had this rubric for assessment PDF. It was very valuable. Okay. This week, we have item analysis, and that's Dr. Wilkins basically explaining the discrimination difficulty indices. Um, Also, I went the wrong way. We also have a practice sheet. where you can actually practice just kind of playing around with item analysis. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to allow her to talk a little bit because she does a good job explaining at least the first half of it. So let's see if this works. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Hi, I've put together this presentation to give you a little more explanation into what Lighthouse is topic. Lighthouse does a great job of giving you examples, but it doesn't really tell you what the examples mean. So this is something that I hope will help. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about what are the different indices. We're talking about the discrimination index. We're talking about the difficulty index. I'm going to show you how to calculate it step by step. It's very simple math, but it comes across rather complicated sounding in Lighthouse. And then what does that number? You're going to get a number. What does 0.75 mean? How does it help you as a teacher? So the first one we're going to talk about is the difficulty index. In mathematical language, it's called the p-value. This value tells you if the question is hard or easy, and it is based on how many students got it right. It's very simple. You take the number of students who took the test, you count the number of students who got a question right, and you put it in a ratio. Number right over total number, and you get a value. It's going to be less than 1. So here's a scenario. Let's say you have 20 students who took a test. 15 got it right, and 5 got it wrong. So the calculation is 15 as a fraction, number on the top, 20 is the number on the bottom because there are 20 students in the class. When you reduce, you get a 0.575, and that's a moderately easy question. Well, how do you know 0.75 is a moderately easy question? Here's the range. If it is between 0.85 and a perfect 100, everybody got it right. It's a very easy question. 0.6 to 0.84, most people got it right, but there were some who got it wrong, moderately easy. If it's between 0.4 and 0.59, this is acceptable. This is where you kind of want the bulk of your test to be. You want to have an acceptable difficulty in your test. You want a few questions that are moderately easy, and you want a few questions that are kind of hard. This helps you discriminate between the ability levels of your students, which is the next index. So you're looking for a 0.4 to a 0.59 for the difficulty factor. If it is way down low, a 0 to a 0.19, it is very hard. It's probably flawed. It probably needs to either be discarded or completely rewritten. It's too hard. So now this gets to our discrimination index. That's the G value. It tells you how well the test distinguishes between your top students and your bottom students. Of your top students, how many of them got the question right? Of your bottom students, how many got it right? And you come up again with a number. So this time, to calculate this one, well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. If you have a very high differentiation index, it means it really tells you who knows the material and who just guessed. If it's low or negative, the question is probably misleading, confusing, unfair. It may be worded in such a way that your top students are trying to figure out what it is you're asking, while your bottom students take it at face value. Your bottom students are probably answering it the way you thought it should be answered when you wrote it. But something in the wording makes your top students go too far, look for something that isn't there. So how do you calculate a discrimination index? I've broken it down into 4 steps. First, rank all of the students by the total scores. You can make this highest to lowest. You can make it lowest to highest. It doesn't matter. Just put all of the overall test scores in order. Then take the top high group. Now for this example, 27% works, but you want about the top 1/4 of your class. You want the bottom 1/4 of your class, the low group. Now this is for overall test scores. So you're looking at the final grade on a test. find those students that are in the top 1/4 of your
Good
class
night.
and the bottom
Bye-bye.
1/4. You don't worry about the ones in the middle. That does not help you discriminate. Count how many students in each group got the question right. So you're looking at the top group, how many got it right? The bottom group, how many got it right? So then you use the formula. You take the high group, how many got it right, and subtract how many got it right out of the low group, and divide by the total in each group, not in the class, but in the group. So if you have 6 students in the top group and 6 students in the bottom group, let's say the high group, all 6 students got it right. The bottom group, 2 students got it right. So that would be 6 minus 2, and there are 6 students in each group, would be over 6, not over 12, but over 6. So here you've got 9 students in each group. All right, so in the high group, 8 students got it right. In the low group, 3 got it right. So I say 8 minus 3 equals 5. There were 9 in each group. That is a 0.56. I look down here, a 0.4 and higher is excellent. It's doing what it needs to do. It is helping you identify which of your students really understand the topic. So what is the takeaway, the pitfalls? If you have a high p-value, okay, that's the question level, and a low d value, which is the discrimination value, the question is too easy. Too many students or all of your students got it right. You're not learning which students know the material better than the others. Now, if you have a low p-value, meaning the question is very difficult, but you have a high discrimination value, that means it is discriminating, but it might be skewing it where your low students are getting it right, which doesn't mean they understand it, and your high students are getting it wrong, which again doesn't mean they don't understand it. They could be just misreading what you want. If your D value is negative, throw the question out. Give the students the points. Something is wrong. That question should not count in the student grade. So now here's a practice group. You've got 12 students in the high group and 12 students in the low group. Now, I have a mistake on this slide. Notice it says 24 students total.
Okay, I'm going to stop it here because the mistake can be kind of deceiving and I don't want to confuse you. So the tricky part here is usually when we talk about high p-value, that we want high p-value, or excuse me, a high. Anytime you say high, you're thinking that's good, okay? Or when you say low, that's not good. But in the interest of if you have a high p-value and a low d value, then the question is too easy. And so you want to flip it to where then let's go to number 2. A low p-value and a high d value. That goes back to the students who are your low performers. They're looking straight at exactly what you're asking. Your higher performing students are digging in and looking for the catch. Okay, so that's not good either. This to me, I have to, and you'll see, you can't really see it well now because my light is on. Right here, you can see. I went through and the actual the handout, you can't really see it because my blur is on. I went through and put my formulas on there. Okay. So if you really want to practice this, go into, I might be able to pull it up. All right, the analysis sheet. Okay. Here's the analysis sheet. Now remember that the number of students, that 27% at the top and 27% at the bottom, though we have a total of 30 students, we're only talking about maybe in this situation, the high group, this is question number 1. The high group, the ones that the high group had, there were 9 that had it correct. There were 3 in the low group that had it incorrect. Okay. And so now to determine what the difficulty index is, what are we going to do? Difficulty index. The formula would be, anyone want to share?
For the difficulty index, the formula should be the correct number over the total number of students,
Very
right?
good. Very good. So our difficulty index there is 18 divided by 30. What does that give us? It's going to give us a 0.6. All right. All right. So if most of the students answered this correctly, it was on the easier side, right? It was on the easier side. Now, the discrimination index. Index is you got the high minus the low. So you got 9 minus 3. 9 minus 3 over the number. And so
Would it be over 9?
over 12. Over 12. So the number is going to be, the total here is 9 plus 3 is what? How many students are we talking about? Let me go here. Okay, 9. There are 9 students in the top, 3 in the bottom. You add those together, you get 12. 9, 10, 11, 12. We're talking about 12 students, correct? So the formula here is to look at the high minus the low over the total, which is 12, 9 plus 3. So really it's 9 minus 3 over 9 plus 3. And if you divide that, you get, we're still on number 1. You'll get 0.5. So
Okay, so I have a question.
6, that's going to be 6 divided by 12, which would be 0.5. Yes, ma'am, your question?
And I was confused about this on the lighthouse too, because I know they were saying the formula for the discrimination was the top correct, whatever, the correct,
Let
and
me
then
give you, let me give
but
you the cheat sheet, okay?
mhm
So that this also has an answer key for you.
mhm
All right, so the difficulty index would have been 18 over 30,
mhm
18 total. That's total correct. That's
mhm
total items correct.
right
Okay. Over 30,
mhm
that's the total number of items. That gives you
mhm
that 0.6. Most students answered this correctly. It was on the easier side. The
mhm
discrimination index, you've got
mhm
9 in the high group. You've got minus 3 in the low group.
mhm
And then you divide that,
mhm
okay? The number of students, which would be in the top group, that's 9. In the
mhm
bottom group, that's 3.
mhm.
So that's 12.
So it had N and a 2. That's why I'm confused. Got you.
Hmm.
So I'm writing this down.
All right, so I'm going to cover it up and let's go back. Let's try it again with the second one, question 2. All right. If the difficult, and what I had to do, ladies, I had to just write my formula over the difficulty index so I could remember the formula. All right. So the formula to get the difficulty index is going to be the total correct, right, over the total number of students. So if I look at total correct, there are 20, correct? There are 20 items correct. And then there are 30 students, right? Dealing with 30 students. So when you divide 20 by 30, you get 0.67. That is going to be the difficulty index. The discrimination index is high minus low over the number of high plus low. So we've got 7 minus what?
5.
7 minus 5, which is 2.
Oh, 12.
Yes.
Okay.
And then once you do that, you divide. You divide the 2
So
divided by
that's 2 divided by 12. Yes.
They prefer we round.
Huh?
And we
yeah.
round, right? Okay.
Okay.
Wouldn't you do 0.167?
That would be 0.7. Yes. You round it up. Mathematicians. Yes.
And looking at this chart, it said both of these are, well, they're moderately easy.
Okay. And so that's because if the higher the number is, what did it say? The easier, I'm trying to remember. Um,
Yes, that's right.
okay.
Yeah, the
Right.
higher.
The higher the number is, the easier the item is going to be. So for this one, most students answered this correctly. It was on the easier side. All right. Discrimination index, this question does not do a great job separating the strong and the weak students and needs to be revised. So that's how you know this one is too easy. All right, let's jump down to, I don't think even question 5. Let's go on to number 3. Um, so difficulty index, total correct.
So that 22 over 30?
22 over 30. And 22 divided by 30 is 0.73. So that's high. We already know that's going to be easy. It's on the easy side. Okay. And then our discrimination index, what is it going to be?
Is it gonna be 0?
0 over 12.
Mm-hmm. Which is 0. So 6 minus 6, 0 over 12, which is the total here, total students. That's going to give you a 0. Anything divided by 0 is 0.
Very hard. Very, very hard. They struggling.
So this question didn't do a great job separating the strong and the weak students, and it needs to be revised.
So with this one, wouldn't it be considered easy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And I got to go back to where I took notes. Hold on just a second. I closed out my. Let's do one more. Difficulty index. Total 21
Over 30
over 30. Mm-hmm.
equals 0.7.
All right. So most students answered this correctly. It was on the easier side. And then it would be 8 minus 2, 6 over 10, which would give you 0.6. All right, so here we go. 0.85 to 1 is going to be very easy. 0.6 to 0.84, moderately easy. 0.4 to 0.59 is going to be, it goes into a level of difficult, it gets to be difficult. 0.2 to 0.39, that would be hard. 0.0 to 0.19, very hard. And that's what Indonesia was talking about. But that's not on the discrimination index, that's on the difficulty index. So as of right now, on the difficulty index, all of them have been 0.6, 0.67, 0.73, 0.7, which keeps us at the very easy to moderately easy here. All right. So let's see. What Indonesia was talking about a minute ago, that zero discrimination index is poor. It provides for poor interpretation. Okay. And there needs to be revision or removal. Okay. And so far, all of them on the discrimination index were 0 to 19, 1, 0. So all of these need to be revised.
I really can't wait until I go and do my third XT to X how I'm gonna use this because benchmark coming up. I'm like, district, please take this question off because it ain't right.
Look at you checking people. Yeah, so I encourage you, yes, to use it. Use it in your daily setting. That's the only thing that validates to me being in a master's program and taking master's level courses or going through national board certification. Unless you're applying it to what you're doing, you wasting time. I don't have time to waste. So when I was going through my master's level classes, I was taking what I was learning and I was applying it in my English classroom and yeah, just getting better as a teacher. So definitely take what you're learning and step it up a notch for yourself. Okay, very good. Very good. So does that help? Awesome. Awesome. Okay. We talked about reliability and validity, discrimination index, needs assessment. This goes into our needs assessments, um, interventions, so forth. How do you know what's needed to intervene? How do you create an intervention through that needs assessment? All right. Um, Effective intervention plans. So the needs assessment is going to identify the problem to address. It's like the diagnostic test. Okay. In our language, we in most cases don't say needs assessment. Usually, and I saw and I don't know if it was me, the way I was talking to Lighthouse, but it took it to like an organization terminology. You provide needs assessment for an organization that is trying to increase the number of shoppers or um, whatever. But we don't say needs assessment a lot in education. Um, so it helps you identify the problem to address. When you do a needs assessment, Johnny needs ABCD. That diagnostic shows us what his needs are, where he's weak, where he's strong. Um, from there, you collect data, identify the problem to address, collect that data from, here we say surveys and interviews, but benchmark assessments, analyzing that data, identifying gaps between current or desired state, identifying gaps between what they did well on, what they didn't do well on. Doing that, disaggregating the data, looking at that item analysis. Majority of the students struggled on um, comprehension, or if it's math, they struggled on decimals. So specifically, where it drills down to each item, what's the skill that students struggled on, and then informing realistic and necessary goals. That means what does the instruction look like moving forward? How do we take what we found in the data and um, cater instruction, differentiate instruction. That's where the differentiation comes in. Okay. Um, and then from there, goal setting. All right. Um, in that, I talked about national board. In that architecture of accomplish, it's called the Helix, the architecture of accomplished teaching Helix, and it basically talks about um, setting goals for students. How are they doing at different levels of the instruction? So we start here, and then I'm assessing to see how they do at this point. And once instruction is finished, what is my next goal for students? So I should be setting goals throughout the cycle of learning. And my goals should be changing based on what I'm learning. So determining what intervention aims to achieve. So depending on what I found out in the data, that's where my intervention, where my ideas for how do I intervene? What strategies now do I need to provide for particular areas of weakness? Provide clarity, direction, and metric for success. Um, Challenges, clarity, complexity, realigns, requires alignment with broader objectives. Again, going back to the objectives, um, where maybe the kid didn't get to the point where they were actually aiming high enough. Sometimes students don't follow us. We think, okay, we taught it and we taught it well, but somewhere it didn't match, it didn't connect, it didn't fire to where they made the connection. So again, that's where that differentiation comes. Um, and the needs adaptability and flexibility. Um, Differentiation can be tricky. You can differentiate by product, by process. Okay. If you have a number of students that performed 80% or better, which was your objective, then you know those students, if they're performed at 80, they're still not perfect. So they still need practice on whatever skill. So you need to up the ante on what that verb is that you're having them to do to go from 80 to 90%, and the students who performed at a 60 or at a 50. It's going, kind of diving in deeper and seeing what is it. And that may be some station work to where you're working one-on-one or you have, a number of students that perform the same way, kind of working, and you're just kind of doing some troubleshooting, you know. Um, let's keep going. Strategy development. You don't have to do a lot of brainstorming here because in most cases, for main idea, we have strategies. If you're struggling with subject verb agreement or writing a good paragraph, or if take it to math, Indonesia, whatever, you have strategies that help, that we can address this skill with this strategy. Okay. In most cases, and I'll let you talk to me, we're not struggling to find those strategies now. Talk back to me.
Now, with the different strategies I use, you're right. They come. It's like, okay, I'm doing this, that, and the other, and we do peer evaluation. So we switch up, and to me, like I said, I'm second year teacher. I'm over the top. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing everything wrong and this and that. So when they come and they do say, I'm going to use this in my class to help my students. But with math, y'all, I don't know what the 1, 2, 3, because I'm first grade. I don't know what's going on with students and numbers, but I literally had to go to veteran teachers and teachers that, because I needed different ways, because I'm like, they not getting it. And so when you was talking about that, I'm like, y'all, I'm almost drowning with math. And I know, like you said, I be teaching my heart out every day.
Mhm.
But and so those different strategies, I'm used to what I'm doing. But
Mhm.
I really had to switch it up and actually understand, and this intervention and all these things that I'm reading about now,
Mhm.
I'm doing, and doing the process and intervention is coming in, and all these different things, trying to grasp, exactly what is needed from what student. All of it is playing, it's tying in together.
Right.
But I really had to go back to the drawing board with math.
Right. Right. And so when I say that we know what we're doing, or we know the strategies, I had binders, I had books, I had YouTube, I had, and so the key is finding what you need at that particular time, which that's the hard part. Okay, because there are sometimes a million and one strategies. Okay, do they all work? Are there some tried and true ones? Yeah. So you're right. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. And there's no way you know everything, but there are so many different strategies out there. It's actually going and getting them, looking for them, talking to your colleagues. Okay, they're a resource. So yes, ma'am. Thank you for throwing that in there. Um, and then progress monitoring. Progress monitoring is exactly what it says. It sounds all, you know, fancy. Monitoring progress. We're looking over a period of time at how students are doing. And is that something that only teachers should be doing? No. We need to loop students in. They should be looking at their progress too. Um, they should know where they are. They should be tracking themselves, their progress, you know? So goal setting, they should know their goal. After collecting that data, you giving them feedback, the strategies that reinforce, you know, them building based on that feedback, and then you utilizing those digital tools, whatever those are. Thank God that we don't have to look at a benchmark assessment and try and figure it out. It's spelled out for us. I saw your face. I saw your eyes, Takia. They be talking. I broke English there. They be talking good, and talk to me about what that look was.
It was just what you said about benchmarks. Like, thank God that that's not
Yeah.
a thing because that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you were kind of celebrating, thankful? Okay, good. Good. I get it too. I'm grateful. But then we still have some in the throes of benchmarking. And you just need to know how to do it. Um, and I think, like you said, this is a great chapter or module for, supporting you in that way. All right, gang. We have arrived at 5:30, a total hour. Um, are you set? You feel pretty good? The grades are looking good. Continue to work through what you have this week. And then anything that you have not done, go back. If you have any egg in zeros, make sure you address those. Yeah, let me not even make it cute. Make sure to address those. I'm trying to think anything else. Questions?
I don't have a question. I do have a comment though. Y'all, when I go back and look at these recordings from the previous weeks, and y'all are faithful. Do you hear? Y'all too. Y'all have been here, okay? And great job with it because I go and I'm looking. I'm like, yes, baby, they own it. Stay in there. You almost done there.
Yeah,
Been
yeah,
here faithful.
they're my 100
Go
group, my
and
100 girls.
and see how many people was in this class. I only saw y'all two every single week. I was like, come on now. Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
Good job, ladies.
I thank you, Andonisha, for that love. I say the same thing. Good job. Good
I
job.
really thought you were gonna say like our faces, like how what our facial expressions are during the video, but yeah, because I'm pretty sure we have some pretty good facial expressions throughout the whole.
Y'all hanging in there. You're hanging in there. I tip my hat, to Kia. I tip my hat to both of you. And Jasmine, I just throw my hair behind my ear because she gonna come with. There you go. All right. Well, ladies, always a pleasure. We got one more time to do this, and it'll be after you guys come back with round faces from eating so much dressing. Okay. All right. Well, look, y'all have a good one and happy Thanksgiving to you. Love on your people because it's crazy out there, but God is always good. He's always protecting. And we just ask that He continue to cover and keep your families and that His grace shine upon all y'all and me too. Sound
Yes, ma'am.
good?
Amen. Happy
All right.
Yes,
Thanksgiving.
All right.
thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
Thanksgiving.
All right. Thanks. Bye.